The tech community at large has been waiting for so very long for a watch from Google, a Pixel watch, if you will, and it is finally here, starting at about $350 and going up if you want the LTE variant. The Pixel watch is here. I've had it on my wrist for over a full day now. So in this video, I'm going to do sort of a 24-hour review. You can kind of treat this as a full review because it's Wear OS 3.5 and I'm really familiar with it on my Galaxy Watch Pro 5 Pro, I think is actually the right way to say the name of that watch. If something, pops up, if my opinion on this watch changes dramatically after a few more days of wearing it, perhaps I'll post another video, but I feel like most of my opinions are pretty much what they're going to be for this watch. But like I said, I've only been wearing it for a little over a day now, so take that into consideration when forming your opinions on my opinions. With that being said, let's first jump into the hardware of the Pixel Watch because I think it's a good place to start for one, but also it's one of the strongest aspects of this watch. Obviously, this is subjective. You may like the appearance of this watch. You may dislike the appearance of this watch. Personally, I really do like it. There's been a lot made of the bezel on this thing, but here's the reality. You can't really see the bezel at any time. Like, okay, can you see it there? Can you see it there? You can see it in that animation for a little bit, right? You can see it when you're scrolling through your apps. You can tell where it is. But broadly speaking, you don't know where that bezel is. And even when you do know where it is, is it really that bad? When we look at the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, which is turned off, you can see, yes, it's a much larger screen, but that bezel is just as big. And before anybody says, well, the bezel on the Galaxy Watch is touch sensitive, it is on the normal 5, but not on the 5 Pro. This bezel is not touch sensitive. You actually have to touch the edge of the screen to do the rotating gesture. So no, the bezel is not really that big of a deal. It's not a big deal to me at all. I think that from a physical perspective, this watch looks very good. I like that you have the rotating dial over here on the side. It's got nice haptics that vibrate as you use that. You've got a recents button back here as well, which will pull up the apps that you've had most recently open. That's really good. You can long press this one to get into the Google Assistant, which I don't actually want to do. And something went wrong apparently there anyways. That's interesting. Not sure what to make of that, but maybe we'll figure that out later. Yeah, I just really like the appearance of this watch. In terms of the band that comes with the one I have anyways, it's fine. It's a simple silicone band, but these are really simple to change out. There's a little button right down there. Maybe you can see this better if I bring it more closely. Stop flashing. You're going to give me a horrible headache. You're going to want to push that down. And then when you push it down, the whole band will slide to the side and it pops right off. It's super easy. And then to put the band back on, you simply push that button down again. This time do it kind of with the band so that it sits like that, and then just slide it into place. It's super simple, super secure. Overall, I really do like the hardware. Now, this is running an older processor, which is a little bit of a problem. The battery is not that large either. It does have a sufficient amount of RAM, but that small battery and the older processor are probably the two biggest weak points of this device's hardware. You may have noticed how much smaller it is than some of the other watches you may have seen, like this one from Mobvoi or this one from Samsung. And that's correct. It is a very small watch and they don't have a bigger variant, but that means it's also very light. If you have a large wrist, this may look weird on you. For me, someone that has a small wrist, it looks just fine. In fact, you could argue that it looks less weird than some of these gigantic watches that are literally the entire size of my wrist. But again, that is a subjective thing that you may or may not care about. In terms of the software experience, it is very similar to my Galaxy Watch. You have your watch face obviously on your home screen there. If you scroll down either with a swipe or with this rotating dial, which again I do really like, you get your quick settings here, and there are more quick settings here than there are on the Galaxy Watch. I don't think you can actually have this many, maybe I'm wrong, but by default there are a ton of quick settings here. So that's nice to have, and if you scroll down, you get your notifications. Scrolling to the left or right lets you cycle through a list of tiles, which you can also customize. You can long press on the watch face and edit the face. Edit the complications, or what they're actually now calling these little circles down here, so you can change what you want to have in each one of those. That is cool. You can also long press on your tiles and go through them, adding or removing different tiles. That's pretty much it. It's a very simple, very basic experience on Wear OS, and it is very similar, as I said, to the Galaxy Watch. So the new app to manage the Pixel Watch is just called Watch, and it's fine, but it does lack some of the functionality that you get with Samsung. You can do some cool stuff here though. Let's go into watch faces, because you can change your watch face right here in this app, but you can also modify the watch face. Now I want to get into a quick bug that I did deal with this watch face and with editing the watch face on my phone. You can see here that middle circle that says 100, that's showing the battery life on the watch, and it is there and it is functioning. You can see that I am at 48% battery there on the watch. So that's how it was. But then the other day I look at it about halfway through the day and it has changed from being the battery to being it says Fitbit Today. Basically it's a shortcut to the Fitbit application. That is not what I wanted. So I go back in here and I go to slot 3, and battery is no longer an option. There's no option to select battery. You can see that it is back again. It has reappeared. So thought that was very strange. I actually went on my watch, long pressed it, and went into the complications, which are what those are called, and there was battery. I set it on there and it was functional. I go back onto my phone and it showed it as being empty. Now, I don't know when this fixed itself, but that apparently has now fixed itself and everything is working fine. But you can change the color, you can change the complications, different layouts, and there are some really good watch faces in here. So that is good, but there are some bugs. You can change your tiles I was talking about directly from your phone if you don't want to do it on your watch, and that is definitely better. Notifications, you can change what app is giving you notifications and which ones aren't. Google account preferences, Play Store just literally opens up the Play Store in the watch section, so that's fine. Watch preferences, again, this is pretty basic. So display and gestures, you can change some of these settings here. You can see turn off or on the always on display, which I would recommend having the AOD turned off, because your battery life is going to be significantly worse with it on, and the battery is already not that great. We'll talk about that a bit more later. Tilt to wake and touch to wake, I would probably turn touch to wake off as well, just to reduce on accidental screen turning on events. Security, you can turn on a screen lock or a pin. Safety and emergency, there's an SOS button. I think if you hit the side crown a bunch of times, it'll call 911 for you. Calendar sync. General, I mean, there's really not much here. I would turn on auto launch media controls if you want to have that on. It's a good setting. And then watch orientation, that's really about it in terms of those settings. Mine is the LTE model, so you have your mobile network there. Privacy, accessibility, system, I mean, that's really just showing find my device and versions. That's really all you can do on the application here with your watch. And to me, that's kind of disappointing. Like, I can't do basic things like modifying vibration and sound settings. There's no way to see your battery life on a graph tracked through it. Like, it's really, really basic. And like I said, when you compare it to what Samsung has on their watch, which we'll look at here for just a second, because I do think that it is relevant. Look at how many more things you have here. There's sound and vibration. You can change all of that stuff. Here's your battery, and it actually will give you the ability to turn on power saving. It'll show you what has been using your battery. Advanced features, you can actually change what your buttons are doing, which you cannot do here. And I could go on and on. There's a ton of features, added features on Samsung's watch, which is running Wear OS 3 or 3.5. It's running the same software more or less as this, but you just can't do these things on the Pixel Watch. And you're paying $350 for this watch. Granted, my Pro is more than that, but the normal Galaxy Watch 5 is in that same price range, and it has all these features. So that is a little bit of a disappointment to me. It kind of reminds me of when the Pixel phones kind of first came out. They were really close to being stock Android. And over the years, now we're up to the Pixel 7 Pro, which, by the way, is the phone I've been showing this stuff to you on. And Pixel has a ton of features, but this is the first Pixel Watch. So it's like we're going to have to wait and have stuff added on, I guess. We're pretty close to bone stock. Now, this is a Fitbit, right? If you want to do your health tracking, you're going to be doing it through the Fitbit app. So let's talk for a moment about how well that works. One of the first things you need to know, though, is that a lot of features for Fitbit are actually behind a paywall. I believe it's like $9.99 a month. Now, you do get 6 months free with your Pixel Watch, but after that, you're going to have to keep this in mind. I'm not going to go through all of the differences between premium and free, but just know that there are some differences there. You can go online and find the differences yourself. Premium challenges, stress management breakdown, health and fitness stats look to be the same, but some things like, I believe, sleep tracking is on one of these. Here we go, sleep score breakdown. You get some basic data, but with premium, you're going to get some more advanced information about your sleep tracking, and that's kind of frustrating because a lot of us don't want to pay a premium service for this sort of tracking that a lot of other watches giveaway for free. Now, there are some things Fitbit Premium does that I don't believe anybody else is doing. So this is something you're going to have to weigh on your own. So this is my Fitbit application. And you can kind of customize what you want to be on these screens, adding and removing things. But we'll just talk about what I've got on here. So let's look at the sleep tracking first. My biggest problem with Fitbits in general, this is true of other Fitbits, whatever you do, whether it's working out or it's sleep tracking, any of this stuff, it seems to take forever for this data to get into the watch, okay? So like sleep tracking, I've been awake for, as you can see there, well over almost 2 hours. And it just now popped up in the app. I looked at it and it wasn't there. I had to refresh it a couple of times, had to go into sleep tracking, and it finally did show up. It's not a big deal, but it is a little bit annoying to me. But let's look at the sleep tracking and see what you get here. So these are the last 2 days that I've worn it. And you can see here, I used to wear my Fitbit way back in December of the prior year. Didn't wear one for all that time. Now we're back on it. So let's look at Thursday. You can see here that it shows time of sleep, deep and REM. You can see here moments that I was awake. It was actually a terrible night's sleep, and I was awake for 1 hour and 35 minutes. You can go into deep and REM sleep, and it will give you this nice chart that shows you your deep sleep, how when you're awake, all this different stuff, and it's very cool. It'll also show you under benchmark, like what normal human beings get. You can see I just don't REM sleep, and I pretty much never do, and that's just how I sleep. I don't REM sleep. I don't deep sleep. I tend to get all light sleep and being awake, and that's pretty much about it. And it'll give you a score, 71, right? That is my score there. For my sleep. Now today, last night, it gave me a 69. Okay, so here's the problem I have with this. I would tell you that objectively, this was a better night's sleep, and I can kind of go into this very, very briefly. I was dealing with some sinus issues, some pretty bad sinus issues, a lot of pain in my sinuses from sinusitis. I have very dry sinuses, and I was having some problems there. So I was up, tried to lay down, pressure was too much, it hurt. I got up. I slept on the couch in the living room for a couple hours, tried to go back to bed, back in the living room again, back to bed at like 4 o'clock, and it thought that was a better night's sleep than last night, where I fell asleep, and the first thing I remember is waking up at 5:55 this morning. So I am questioning the accuracy of this sleep tracking, because I will tell you, I feel much better this morning than I did yesterday morning. So take that with a grain of salt in terms of how effective their sleep tracking is. Let's talk about some of the other tracking, though, that it can do, because I feel like that stuff's going to be maybe a bit more accurate. So heart rate, it will track your heart rate. As you can see here, it will show you when you've peaked. That was during some exercise that I did yesterday. And then that gap there was where I was having to charge my watch because it went dead midway through the day. And that all seems to be very, very accurate. If you want blood oxygen, sorry, that's not a thing that it is tracking as of yet. Under exercise here, you can see a walk that we went on where I was able to track it with GPS, and it tracked the trail, the path we were on very, very accurately. Heart rate, pace, mileage, all that stuff was very, very good. Now, one thing that you do have to keep in mind is that apparently this thing does not support automatic workout tracking. On most other watches, if it detects you walking, on my Galaxy Watch, to keep harping on that, I'm sorry, but after I've been walking the same kind of path for 10 minutes, it says, hey, you've been walking for 10 minutes. Do you want us to track this? You hit yes, and it starts tracking the GPS. It gives you your trail and all that stuff, and it actually will get you the stuff that it was seeing prior. You can look at a quote here on 9 to 5 Google. The Pixel Watch does not currently have the ability to auto start, stop, and pause a workout on the device like users can on other Fitbit devices. However, it does automatically detect a workout after you've completed it and logs the summary with your stats within your Fitbit app. So best I can understand this is that's the difference between what I just showed you where I manually started and I got the trail and I got all that data versus something like this, which would be done automatically. It's simply just going to show you your heart rate, your cardio, minutes, peak cardio, fat burn, that kind of stuff. Just basically going to give you like a summary rather than the more detail you get when you actually manually start the workout. So if automatic tracking is a big deal to you, not a thing you got yet. So no workout tracking automatically, no blood oxygen. So let's talk about another feature that was a little bit weird for me to find, and that is the electrocardiogram, the ECG. So initially, I go into this watch and I'm looking for an ECG app, and it's just not there. I can't find the thing. I'm going to the Fitbit app. I don't see anything in there. At random, I go into the Google Play Store and I determine that I have all these apps that need to be updated. It never told me I needed these apps to be updated, but there they were. And in that list was ECG by Fitbit. I thought, wow, that's weird. Why is it not in my app list? I try to open it. It says it needs to be updated. So I let it update. I go back to open it again, and now it's actually appearing in my list of applications when I go into my apps on the watch. So that was strange. Then it says the Fitbit app needs to be updated. So I said, whatever. I let all the apps update, go into that application, and there we go. Now the ECG is functioning, but it didn't tell me any of this. I had to stumble onto the fact that my apps needed to be updated in the Play Store and able to find it. I tweeted this on Twitter, which is where you tweet things. Who else can't find the ECG? And I had a bunch of people liking that tweet. No one could seem to find this application. I had to stumble onto it. That's a little bit strange. And then maybe I'm just dumb and I can't find it, but I don't know where to see this data in the Fitbit app. Let's go into health metrics here. Breathing rate, heart rate variability. That's not going to be it. Skin temperature, which it has a sensor for that if I'm not mistaken, but there's no data being gathered for skin temperature. Oxygen saturation, again, there's no data there. Resting heart rate. I don't know where to find this information. In heart rate, it's not there either. Where do I view this ECG? If I go into edit and I go down to the things I don't have so that you see it's not there. Readiness, stress management, blood glucose. Do you see ECG in this anywhere? Because I don't. And on my Samsung watch, there's an obvious section for this to view this. I have no idea where to find this data in the Fitbit app. I wanted to give you a very quick comparison here to the Galaxy Watch on the sleep tracking and as well as the ECG, the fact that you just can't find it in the Fitbit app, or at least I don't know where to find it. I open up the Samsung Health app. There is sleep tracking. Let's go back to the last day I wore it. There it is. You get your time of sleep. You get the same kind of graphing, your sleep stages. You can track blood oxygen through the night should you want to do that. It'll even check to see if you're snoring. You can rate your night's sleep itself. It shows you consistency. There's a lot of good stuff here, and all of this is free. And then as far as the ECG goes, there it is. It's there on the home screen, and you can see the ECGs that you've had in your history. You can view your history there and go through them. You can see all that stuff right there. It'll even give you some information on it. But there you go. It's really easy to find, and again, it's free. Beyond that, I've had several instances where I've tried to refresh the Fitbit app, and I've gotten an error saying that it wasn't able to get data from the Pixel Watch. That's a little bit frustrating. Although it's stopped doing that over the last maybe 12 hours, it seems to be doing okay. I've had other issues where the scrolling crown on this app screen just stops working, and I have to go back out and go back in, and then it starts working again. Overall, it just feels like a watch that is so close to being really good. I love the appearance. I love the lightweight nature. I really like the watch. I also ran into a bug where I was controlling my music from my watch, and you can go in and raise or lower the volume. And I was like, oh, you can use the rotating dial to change the volume. But it didn't work right. It would go up, but when it went down, the meter went down, but the volume in my earbuds was staying the same. So there's just all these weird things about this watch. When you combine it with the fact, the elephant in the room that I have not talked about just yet is the battery life. It is a one-day watch. My first day wearing it, I had it fully charged, put it on at 4 p.m., I slept with it, and it made it to about 3:30 the next day, and then it was dead. And you may think, well, okay, that's a full day, though. The Apple Watches apparently only last one day. You can throw it on the charger, maybe in 30, 40 minutes, you're fully charged. Maybe that can be part of your routine. You get up for work in the morning, you throw it on the charge, you have a shower, you have breakfast, and you've got a full day charge. No, you're not, because it takes like an hour and 20 minutes to go from 0 to fully charged again. And that's not just my testing. That is also from Google. 80 minutes to fully charge this watch. That's too long. That's too long to have to charge it. At that point, whose morning routine is an hour and 20 minutes long? Nobody's is. I mean, maybe when I was working at like a regular job and getting up early, maybe I had 30 minutes in the morning. At that point, that's going to probably get you through the day, but then you're going to get home from work and have to charge it further again. That's just too much charging. The battery life is just not good enough. In particular, when you've got watches that are 3-4+ day batteries that I almost forget that I have to charge because it goes so long in between. And of course, some of these Garmin watches go 2 weeks in between a charge. Granted, that's a very, very different kind of watch, but it's still worth mentioning. The battery life just isn't good enough. So for me, this is a watch that I really want to love. I really want to love this watch, but the only way that I could use it, and maybe this is the way it's going to be used by some people, like my wife, who I think this is going to wind up being her watch very, very shortly, is to just forego the sleep tracking. Make it your routine to charge it overnight. Throw it on a wireless charging pad because that works. You can actually charge it through your phone, your reverse wireless charging. That does also work. and just put it back on in the morning. And that's really the only way that I can see this thing making sense for someone like myself or for my wife. So there you go, guys. That is my review of the Google Pixel Watch after having worn it for about a day and a half now, give or take. Like I said, if something radically changes over the next weeks or months, I will do a video on that. Perhaps it'll be a long-term video review. If myself or my wife winds up wearing it long-term, we can talk about that then. I do want to say thanks to Google for sending this watch over to me, and full disclosure to you guys, if you did not know, they did send both the watch and the phone over to me. I don't think, though, you should be skeptical in any way that has affected my opinions on the device. This wasn't the most positive review, so if you think I'm being biased because they sent it to me, I would just say you're being crazy. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss more in-depth coverage just like this. I'll see you on the next one, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friend.